OpenSea breaks silence on NFT royalties, but creators don't like what they hear. So I'm not liking this any way, shape, or form. I put a tweet out. I think that I don't like the removal of royalties. I feel that if we do remove royalties, it could potentially allow for regulators to call NFTs a security. However, there is a little caveat for NFTs that do not need royalties. That's when the NFT ecosystems are completely built out. We're using NFTs for real estate documents, maybe driver's licenses, any types of public records that we could already find. Those should not require royalties. But the whole reason why we have NFTs is so creators, not even people like myself, like the Music Man, like writers, authors, people writing movies, musicians, so they can actually own their work and they can make money off of it, and they don't have to go through a predatory record industry because they are the absolute worst. So basically, this effect is going to take place on November 8th, and OpenSea is also going to be launching on-chain tool helping creators enforce royalties. OpenSea will enforce royalties for new collections using the on-chain tool, but won't do so for new collections that don't opt in. So I like that they are going to be giving people the option, but at the same time, like one pieces deserve to have they deserve to have royalties, and that should not be mitigated any way, shape, or form. And this is my hill. I'm going to toss it over to Jen.
Yeah, Wendy, I know one of the other marketplaces that said that they were going to get rid of royalties, said they were going to keep it for the one-of-ones. So I think that there are some people in the industry that are thinking along the same lines of you. I agree that NFTs are for the creator. And when NFTs hit the mainstream stage, that's what we were talking about, right? We were getting rid of the middlemen. We were going to democratize art, and creators were finally going to be paid by the people who loved their art. And now we're just seeing the market do what the market does, right? People don't want to pay. And when there's more competition, I think that the marketplaces are going to give the customers what the customers want to do. This story for me, I was kind of on the fence about. You know, OpenSea CEO said, it's clear that many creators want the ability to enforce fees on chain, and fundamentally, we believe that the choice should be theirs to make. It shouldn't be a decision made for them by marketplaces. I feel like OpenSea is seeing an opportunity to win the PR narrative here with creators and block out some of their competition. So if you read a little bit more down the story, they are going to test out being able to blacklist other marketplaces who are allowing traders not to pay fees. So it feels like a little bit of a win-win here. But when it comes to transparency, crypto Twitter, I think, has done right to point out the fact that they are maybe using this as an opportunity to block out their competitors. The one thing I will say, though, is that people have a choice. Creators have a choice in this. If you don't like what one marketplace is doing, you can use another. And so that's the beauty of this coming off of the last story. Adam, you said that in our last story, so I'll pass it off to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I actually think that you kind of nailed it there at the end, which is that this is a choice, and it's a choice that's non-standard right now. And one of the big challenges with just backing up a little bit as far as like NFTs are concerned, NFTs are digital collectibles. The royalty thing is really something that's a little bit on the newer side in terms of people finding that to be important. It was something that sort of came out when Ethereum smart contracts, and particularly marketplaces like OpenSea, started collecting fees for their own profitability, right? That was how they made money off of these types of marketplace transactions. And then they were like, hey, if we're collecting this for ourselves, why wouldn't we collect it for other people, and then kind of allow them to make that money? And then as that became something that people started doing, then we saw this narrative emerge that's like, oh, hey, this is a reinvention of complete disintermediation of the prior system, which is obviously very predatory. And, has not been great to kind of creators, who oftentimes, especially for creators who have longer productive careers, would wind up basically competing against themselves, competing against their older works that were sold to other people and that they didn't get any sort of return on from when they were sold, and then having a harder time selling their newer works that they are actually the people who are selling. So there's real reasons why you would want to do this. But there are also technical challenges. And those technical challenges have always made me look at this and say, okay, this is a moment that we're in right now that doesn't really have a better solution. And just to break it down very quickly, when you're talking about doing royalties on chain, you're basically saying that one of two things has to happen. On the one side, every transaction that involves one of these assets must have an amount of money that is attached to it. Or alternatively, you're saying that anyone who is willing to operate outside of the system can just make a deal that completely ignores the royalty that's there, programmatically, just by pretending that it's a simple transfer and doing the payment some way other than on the blockchain in the way that in the same transaction where that happens. So that's real. That's always been a problem. We don't have a good solution for it. It seems like OpenSea is trying to address that, and that's where I think this is going to come down to is does the market, not necessarily just the artists, but the entire market, including both the artists, the marketplaces, and then also the people buying the stuff, are they going to play by the rules? If they are, then we can have this be standardized. If they're not, then you're basically creating a situation that's voluntary, where people can choose to pay royalties, but that was kind of always the case. So I think, again, a push towards standardization can only be a good thing when it comes to this type of stuff, but it's not just like hey, we just need to make a decision and flip a switch one way or the other. It's complicated. It involves human behavior, and none of this stuff winds up being easy. So I think it's good to see it getting tackled. I don't know what the right answer is for it, but I suspect this is a conversation we'll be having probably a year from now, too. Who wants it next?
Awkward silence.
I'm just...
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I just get so upset because, like, I was arguing with somebody on crypto Twitter or NFT Twitter, whatever you want to call it. They're all cryptocurrencies. But I was arguing last night, and I was like, they're like, oh, well, we can just allow humans to do the right thing. And I'm like, well, what about Napster? What about LimeWire? Because that was my back in the day. Is like you were able to download all kinds of music, and the people writing the music were not getting credit for it or getting compensated for it, and they were already getting screwed out of money from the record labels. So I don't trust humans to do the right thing. Is it because people are bad? Not necessarily, but at the same time, like, this is people's livelihoods. This is things that people are creating. The 10,000 generative pieces, whatever. That's a completely different argument. But I just don't want to see this become the industry standard and see the underdogs get cheated again. Because again, the music industry is absolutely terrible. And there's been so many different music masterpieces that have been written by amazing, talented people, and they haven't gotten credit for it. I don't want to see that continue to happen. Crypto and Bitcoin, NFTs, whatever, it's supposed to make the quality of life better. That's all I got to say.
I think that to the extent we can solve problems with technology, we should solve problems with technology. But again, a lot of this stuff comes down to human behavior. And like, you can game it out. And if somebody really wants to cheat these types of systems, even if it was fully mandated, every transfer on chain has to be a transfer, right? What are you going to do? Enforce floors? I mean, like, there's no good technological solution to any of this stuff. It's all just a question of, like, what are the clever ways that we can combine these things to create the least worst set of outcomes? And I think at the end of the day, that's where we'll probably wind up, because everything else is going to be a compromise.